I said, but it was an elephant. Okay, welcome back. This is episode 5 of Don't Screw Up Your Relationship. Mm-hmm. And it's me, Scotty, and Sarah. And so when we say don't screw up your relationship, we always remind you that that is from two people that are not relationship experts.
Right.
But we have both screwed up relationships and we have been
screwed over in
relationships. Episode 5. So we're going to get right to the meat of this. So we've been talking about, if you've been following us by this point, you know we're talking about trauma brain. Not brain injuries, but actually experiences from relationships that you carry over into other relationships. It does not necessarily have to be dating or marriage. It can be from it can be in friendships, it can be from trauma from your family that you carry over. It basically affects you as a person. The one thing I want to say at this point is, though, you don't have to stay there.
Right. Exactly.
You don't have to be a victim of trauma brain and think there is no hope.
Right.
Okay? Because one thing that we can say, though, we're not relationship experts. We are trauma brain experts.
Yes. Yes, we are.
Because we both have it. We could tell you stories, and probably will at some point, about our relationships. But in trauma brain, we talked about, if you have a response, something, I'm in this moment with you, you say something, mean nothing by it, it triggers something in my head from a past moment. Now I'm acting out of character, and I've put myself back here because this is the trauma brain.
Right.
So now we talked about in the last episode about patience. So you have to be patient. You have trauma brain. You have moments. I can't just say to you, well, snap out of it.
Right.
You can't stop acting this way. Because that's not how it works. You have had moments with me when I've had my trauma brain moments that you've had to. So you have to have patience. We talked about you've got to be patient with your partner. Now that doesn't mean that they get to constantly, every single thing is a trigger.
Right.
And you're just, oh, it's trauma brain.
Right.
And like you said, abuse is never.
No.
Violence is never.
No.
You don't get to play that game.
No. That is not a pass for you to do that, and it's definitely not a pass for you to accept it either. You do not have to accept someone being violent towards you because they're using a trauma brain excuse. That's not what we're doing. Trauma brain is very real, but you have to take responsibility for your actions, and that's part of what we're talking about too, is taking responsibility for your actions and saying, how can I improve? How can I be better? Because I want to be better. I want to be better for myself, and I want to be better for my partner. I don't want to always just have these triggering episodes and moments where it's just, you're just zapped right back into a situation that you never, ever, ever wanted to be in. And here you are putting yourself back in that situation.
Right. Well said. I agree 1,000%. 1,000%. So when a partner gives space or patience and you say, okay, what can I do? You're having a response. And I say, okay, what can I do? What did I say? How can I help? Patience is from the person that's having the trauma response. Patience must be given by the other partner. But this partner that's having the trauma response, they don't get a get out of jail free card.
Right.
Either.
Right.
Because you and I we've gone around in this circle. If I said, well, you said that sounded just like my ex, and she did X, Y, Z. So you're not the right one because you said the same thing.
Right.
But I'm filtering what you said through her.
Right.
So I'm allowing her to stand in between me and you now.
Right.
So if you give me patience, or you show your patience towards me to say, well, I'm gonna let you work through it. I must be doing something.
Right.
I must be doing something on my side.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So when you've had moments and I've given patience to you, what have you found helpful for you?
Honesty. I have to be honest with you. I have to sit down and say, even if it takes you by surprise, and this is another thing that I want to talk about. Sometimes you recognize the trigger right away and you can stop the response. You can be honest. You can say, look, this just happened. This is how I'm feeling right now, and this is why I'm feeling it this way. Now, as you start to really recognize that you're having a trauma brain response, because it doesn't happen overnight. You're not just going to wake up in the morning and be like, oh, that's a trauma brain response. I recognize it now. But hopefully, as we keep going and you start to maybe learn through this series, this is what it looks like, this is how it sort of manifests itself, then you can begin to really recognize, okay, it's happening now. Let me be honest with my partner. Let me tell him exactly what's going on. And there are other times where that's not possible. But it still doesn't mean that you get an out of jail free card on that. That doesn't matter either. You have to sit down with yourself after it's over, take responsibility for your actions and accountability for what you've done. If you said something ugly, if you broke something precious, if you stormed out, if you whatever it was, you have to sit with what it was that you did, take accountability, acknowledge, talk about it, apologize, and move forward.
If you're I want to say something right here in the relationship. If you are seeking to better yourself and your partner is not in on that, there are two things, because two stories can be true at once. The first thing is that should not stop you from wanting to be the best version of you that you can be. Though your partner may say, oh, I think that's dumb, or that's you just act that way because you're being a jerk or whatever.
Or you want attention.
You want attention, and you're just you're a crybaby, whatever, right. All the names.
Right.
Don't let that stop you from being the best version of you. The other thing is that the second story is that if you do that and your partner is not accepting of that, that tells you something about your partner.
Yes. That's not the one.
Right?
That's not the one.
Right? Because trauma brain is a legitimate thing. It's PTSD.
Absolutely.
What it is.
Absolutely.
And I've counseled, when I ran the counseling center, I counseled a lot of military people that had PTSD. And PTSD is a real thing, and it is a real thing in relationships. We've been calling it trauma brain, but PTSD it's legit. It's a legit thing.
Yeah.
And so if you were diagnosed with a disease and you were to come in and your partner was just like, oh, well, whatever.
Right.
You would say, well, you obviously don't care about me.
Right.
I'm saying it's the same thing.
Yeah. Mental health.
Mental health is important.
Very much so.
And people get on I grew up in a time where religion, and I don't even like the word religion. I consider myself more spiritual than religious. Most people know that. If you don't know that, then you're not as close to me as you think you are. But I grew up in a time where spirituality, the Bible, and all of that did not. You had to have either or. You couldn't have psychology and spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
We've grown a lot to realize that you can.
Mm-hmm.
But mental health is important because if you can't, let's get down to brass tacks here in relationships. If you can't depend on your partner, what are you doing?
It's true. It's true.
Thoughts on that?
No, I mean, I absolutely agree with you. If you can't trust that your partner is going to be there for you, even if they don't understand it, that's fine. You don't have to fully understand it, especially if your partner doesn't ever have trauma brain. They don't suffer from any kind of PTSD. Maybe
They probably do.
I don't see how you can get to a certain age and not. But
right.
That's just my life experience. But no, if you can't trust that your partner is going to say, you know what, I might not fully understand this, but I'm going to see if I can figure it out to help you, to be a better partner to you, because you're important to me and you matter to me. And if I can do anything, then I want to do that.
Yeah. Because this is something that, that we have experienced now that I've never experienced before. The amount of support that I have, the amount of support that you have is something that's so, and I believe now something that I could not have possibly believed because I never had it. And that is, you can heal quicker. You can heal a lot quicker and overcome a lot of trauma if you have support.
Right.
When you don't have support, you go to your partner and you're telling them, well, what you said, that reminds me of whatever. And then they're like, well, that's just because I wouldn't have said what I said if you hadn't said what you said, right? And we all have said that. You made me mad, so I got mad. And that happens. Is that okay? No, because two wrongs don't ever make a right. And yours truly is absolutely, my blood pressure gets worked up. If somebody starts raising their voice to me, I have to check myself. If I don't check myself, then I'm going to check out. And we're going at each other. And it never works. And so when you're in a relationship where you have support, and here's something that I would say to people, maybe you would agree at this in the last couple minutes here. If you can't get support from your partner, talk to somebody you can get support from.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that you go, okay. If you're married, I'm not saying go find another person. That's not what I'm saying.
No.
I'm saying that a counselor, a friend, if your relationship hits that fork in the road, then you got to deal with that when that time comes. But hopefully they'll turn the corner and be, listen to what you're saying. So, am I rambling now?
No.
Or am I?
No, you're making very good points.
I'm making very good points.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Anything else you would like to say?
I think you covered it, right?
We covered it?
Yeah.
Okay. So, trauma brain, for now. We'll probably talk about some more things in the next few episodes to come.
Questions. We'll take questions if you have any.
Yeah, always. Questions, put them in the comments. Always like, subscribe, hit the bell. Comments, questions, concerns. How gorgeous Sarah is.
Thank you, dear.
She's gorgeous. But all in all, there is hope. You're not stuck by virtue of the fact that you know that you don't like where you are, means that you can go in a different direction.
Absolutely.
So never forget that. And as always, I will cheers you out with my Batman mug. So see you on the next episode.